Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's good to be back. My name is Reverend Joanne Burns, and I'm here this morning to speak to the terrific, terrifying time of transition. Transition is a conglomeration of many things, both terrific and terrifying. It's a treasure chest of excitement and anxiety. How wonderful to feel so alive and aware of every step of the process. Change. You're laughing. Isn't this how you react to change? Isn't this what happens to you when you sense the winds of change blowing through your life? Really? Well, I'm glad that today's daily word was based on joy, because I'm going to open your awareness to the joyful process of transition and change. It's present if you look for it. So let's begin. And maybe you too can have that experience the next time change comes your way. It is said that change is the only constant. In my experience, I have experienced change so many times. Daily, in fact. Change is the opportunity to open your heart to the presence of God with each and every breath, to be fully present in the now moment. In order to live, we must breathe. We must inhale, we must exhale. If we don't exhale, how can we inhale and have the breath of life to sustain us? As it is with change. If we do not take in the breath of change and exhale the breath of change, how are we to awaken to the blessing that is waiting for us? In the book Finding Yourself in Transition by Unity Minister Robert Brummett, he states that despite the mind-boggling depth and swiftness of change in our culture in recent years, very few of us have learned to deal with change in a healthy way. We often fear change. We resist it. Our resistance can be subtle, or it can be very powerful. Regardless, it would seem that despite our conscious intentions, there is a part of us that clings stubbornly to the old and familiar. Would this be appropriate time to have a show of hands of this week? Yes, I knew I was not alone. In the book Managing Transitions by William Bridges, he states that it isn't the changes that do you in, it's the transitions. Change is not the same as a transition. Change is situational. Like, you've changed your job, you've changed your residence, you've changed your employment status, you've changed your church location. Any of those things is a situational change. Transition, on the other hand, is the psychological process that we all move through trying to deal with that change. It's what we come to terms with regarding that new situation. So change is external. Transition is internal. In our mind, in our heart, in our physical being, in our soul level. We all experience these changes. Many of them are common to all of us, and yet we handle them in a different way. Yes, there are patterns of similarity, we all know that, but somehow the transitional experience that we all go through is unique to our experience, to our consciousness, to our expression of being. We know that each and every one of us is doing the absolute best that we can with what we've been given to work with and the resources that we have, given the level of interference we're dealing with at that time. Interference being our personal drama and our distractions. I have a distraction right now. There's a crow, 2 of them out there playing in the waste can. And I'm a bird person, so of course I'm just drawn to the window.
Those 2 crows are all over, they hang out together.
Well, of course they hang out together. It's good to go through life with a buddy.
Yeah, they're buddies.
So Robert Brummett says in his book that every change is a type of death, a death to the old way of living, the old way of being. And ironically, change, dying to the old, is one of the intrinsic characteristics of growth and expansion. To live is to grow is to change is to die to the old. In John chapter 12, verse 24, Jesus said to his disciples, "Unless a grain of wheat falls to the earth and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it will bear much fruit." Any one of you that is a gardener knows that this is true. Brummett says that transition can feel like a time of crisis. It's a frightening place to be. The Chinese language has an interesting perspective on the word change, or crisis rather. The symbol for crisis is actually 2 symbols. It's a combination of these 2 words. One is danger, the other opportunity. And true to Unity fashion, you get to choose which one you want your change experience to be, crisis or opportunity. Have you ever been stuck in that decision? Yes, I know I have. So the beautiful thing that I love about this book, Finding Yourself in Transition, is that he reveals the 4 Ds. Ah, there they are. Disenchantment, disidentification. Disengagement, disidentification, disenchantment, and disorientation. For any end to be effective, you will go through these 4 phases. So let's begin. Disengagement is the process of letting go. We move away from the situation, probably energetically first, and sometimes a little bit in our thoughts. For example, Jesus disengaged from his daily life when he went off into the wilderness for 40 days. Now we know that the wilderness, the 40 days, really is that time apart so that we can be more introspective to learn what our soul is trying to tell us as we start to move into this time of change and transition. I see that he took that time to become centered in the strength and the truth that he knew himself to be. Because with each and every challenge that came to him during that time apart, he strengthened his resolve. He strengthened his awareness to the truth within himself. And I said, within himself. He needed to prove it to himself because truly, who else was there? For ourselves personally, quiet time. Quiet time, being alone in nature, going for a walk, having time in meditation, these are the things that strengthen us. Disidentification. Disidentification is where we let go of our old identity. It's an internal process, but yet we release things of the outer. We release who we believe ourselves to be based on the outer attachments. For example, prior to ministry, I was a commercial photographer, a designer, and a studio manager in the advertising world. A unique scenario all to itself, the advertising world. But As I lived those 18 years in that environment, becoming a photographer, acquiring the knowledge and the skills and the equipment, I then had to make a choice to disidentify with that, because I had awakening in me something else. My Christ presence was knocking at the door. I had to choose. And so I released being a photographer and a studio manager. It took me a full year to even make the decision. However, it took me 6 years to release all my camera equipment, which felt like a true extension of my arm. We're not just talking 35 and 2 1/4 in a dark room. We're talking 4x5 and studio equipment and lighting and all of it. It's just, oh my God, this was family. And so it took me years to disengage and disidentify with that part. But I had to do it because that growth within my soul was just pushing me forward. I couldn't not change. I couldn't not move through that time of transition. And I'm blessed to be going through it again. Maurice shared that I've spent years in teen ministry and youth and family ministry in the Unity movement. I've released doing the physical work of that for 4 years. However, now 4 years into it, I'm really just starting to clean out the garage with all of the retreat materials and the curricula and the stuff. I even myself, why do I hang on? So I can only imagine that moving into a time of retirement is very much the same. So I'm preparing myself mentally for that. Robert Brummett says that disidentification is a matter of losing or giving away your former life that is defined by external circumstances, and having that opportunity to identify the true self that comes up from within you. With every 4D cycle that I go through, I see more of my true self being revealed. Our disenchantment comes from an old picture or expectation that we may carry through our life, carry it around with us. A picture of how things were or how things are, even though it's really not that way anymore. We're just carrying the picture and we're believing in the picture more than what's really going on. Or how things should be. Emphasis on should. You're smiling, so I know that you're relating to the should. Yes, we should ourselves quite a lot. But I believe that as we release our vision, our hope, our dream of what life was supposed to be like when we were 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, that may not be our current reality. I had no clue that I would be standing here when I was 20, But this is how it is. I wouldn't have it any other way. So in making those conscious choices to release the old vision, the old paradigm that we carry around in our back pocket, it's like holding on to outdated technology, the outdated software. I'm sure each of you have gotten to the point where your cell phone just doesn't work the same as it used to, or that laptop or computer is so slow you can barely function. God forbid you have dial-up internet connection. I couldn't function. So that disenchantment is Spirit's push to continue to grow and evolve and expand and explore. Without it, we would decline and spiral downward, which I don't believe is where we're supposed to be headed. We could even die spiritually, and that would be said. Disorientation. This is where the fun part begins. Yay! It's important to come to a place of acceptance, that feeling of being confused or disoriented. That is a part of an ending process. It's part of it all. We're not the old anymore. We know we're carrying around the baggage in the picture and got a garage to clean out, and yet we're bubbling up with this excitement about this new thing, but we have no clue what it is. We feel it before it arrives. We can't even see it on the distant horizon, but yet we know it's there. And so in this process of disorientation, we don't know if we have the right foot on the table or the left foot on the table, and we're standing in the divide. The old familiar ways of doing and being and having no longer work. And so we have come to a place of temporary. Every ending comes with a loss on some level. A loss of innocence, a loss of a loved one, a loss of a work, a loss of income, a loss of security. The list can go on and on and on. We choose what to put on the list. And this new temporary situation must be acknowledged and given a sense of life so that it can bubble up and blossom to turn into whatever is next. And yet, even in positive circles, such as the New Thought community, we sometimes deny that this loss is happening and disassociate ourselves from the grief process that can be associated with change and transition. So the emotions and the thoughts and the experiences that you're having during this oh so fun time of change are very real. They can sometimes throw us off our center. Rob has a wonderful habit of quoting Unity Minister Eric Butterworth, who's known for this statement. I accept the reality of the situation, but not its permanence. I'll say that again. I accept the reality of the situation, but not its permanence. Can you affirm that with me? I accept the reality of the situation, but not its permanence. Yes. This also is related to a Buddhist concept of impermanence. They teach that in that philosophy as well. And what I love about that is that change is a part of the next wind. And it's a little bit windy today, so we know how that wind changes the location of things. And we feel the breeze on our face. Disorientation is just another step in the process, life's evolutionary process, and it's temporary. So the question is, can you live in the question of constant evolution and just be with it? Just be, and be okay with the question. Is it unsettling? Yes. Is it terrifying? It could be. That's up to you. Is it terrific? Maybe. You can play with that and see if you want to choose terrifying or terrific. Each of us have successfully crossed the bridge of transition many times. We've leaped over those broken slats and the wooden planks, and we have survived the experience. Mostly, it's never been as bad as we thought it was going to be when we were still on the other side. So whatever change you face in your life today or tomorrow, have a new thought about the experience. And remember, Buddha said, do not be an angel, or a god, but merely awake. Namaste.